Everyone here's got friendships, right? I mean,
Yeah.
well, I think we all do.
Yeah.
Who here? Does everybody here have friends? Who here has friends? Oh, wait a minute. Hang on. Who here does not have friends? Right? Yeah, oh, we got a lonely soul. And that one's forever alone. And another one? Oh no. Some people don't have friends. Oh, another. Wow, that's sad. I'm sorry, some of you don't have friends. You guys, okay, you guys who said you don't have friends, you gotta talk to me afterwards, because there are tons of people here who will be your friends. But relationships, let me redefine, relationship. You all have relationships, even if you don't have friendships, right? Every single person in here is involved in one kind of relationship or another. Am I right? Let me think about it, whether it's friends, whether it's family, whether you have relationships with organizations or businesses around you, every one of you is involved in some kind of relationship, multiple relationships in your life. And each one of those relationships, every single one of them, is based on something. There's something that governs how each and every relationship works. And not every relationship has the same thing governing it. For instance, I'll show you. For instance, think about friendships. What is the one thing, the main thing that governs a friendship? What is a friendship usually based upon? Can someone give me an answer? What do you think a friendship is usually based on? Give me some answers. What do you think friendship is based on? Joey?
Love and friendship.
Love and friendship. Okay, you're getting kind of close. That's kind of what I would say. That's pretty close. Xander, what do you think? Trust is good. You know what I'm thinking a lot of it is? I think a big part of what friendship is based off of is reciprocal kindness. By that I mean, you're kind to a person, that person is kind to you, and so you're kind to them and they're kind to you, and the kindness goes back and forth, and you get along, you enjoy the same things, and because of this reciprocal kindness, you two get along, and you're friends, right? So if you're both kind to each other, it goes forward. So a friendship is generally going to be based upon reciprocal kindness. Okay, so that's what friendship is based upon. Well, what about, how many people here are old enough to have a bank account? How many people have a bank account? Some of you? Oh, wow. A lot of you guys got bank accounts. Okay. If you don't have a bank account yet, you pretty much are going to have to get one eventually. Pretty much everyone has a bank account. And when you get one, you have a relationship with the bank. It's not a person, it's an organization, but you have a relationship with the bank. What is that relationship based on? What is that relationship based on? Jake?
Sharing.
What?
Sharing.
Kind of. Kind of. In a way. I'll give you some, because you're kind of close on that one. What is it based on?
The fact that they have your money.
Yes, and more specifically, what one thing? What is the thing the relationship is based on?
Money.
Business.
Private.
Why do they care about the business? So they can make
Money.
money. It's based on money. The bank and you, your relationship is based on money. You give them some money, they give you some money because you give them your money and they pay interest for you to keep your money at the bank. Then you take a loan from them and they take lots of interest from you. So the money goes back and forth between you two, and the thing that governs your relationship, the one thing that makes that relationship happen, that determines how that relationship works, is money. It's money. Now what about the government? This one relationship you guys have absolutely no choice on. Every single one of you has a relationship with the government. Now, hopefully you haven't been too intimately involved with the government yet. But you will all, and currently you all have some degree of relationship to the government. Now what is your government relationship based upon? Way in the back, Benjamin, what is your relationship to the government based on? What thing do you
Your
think?
government relationship is based on the government taking advantage of you and then your own protection.
Okay. Oh, yeah. There's a good opinion. But I think there's something else that sort of encompasses what you just said in a broader sense. Because that's only part of the relationship, if you want to take that opinion. What is the thing that makes that possible? Stephen.
Obeying them.
Oh, we're getting way closer. The thing that governs your relationship with the government is something about obeying them. It's part of taxes. It's part of taxes. The word starts with an L.
Oh.
Bryson. What? Living? No, but good guess. Good guess. Right? Law. The law. It is the law. Am I right? The government makes a law. And if you obey the law, the government is good to you and things go well. If you disobey the law, they go bad. So if you obey the law and you pay your taxes and you don't steal and you don't kill anyone, then the government is going to take care of you. It's going to give police officers to take care of you. It's going to make roads that you can use. And then if you do break the law, the government is going to throw you in jail. So there's a law. The law is the one thing that defines what your relationship with the government looks like and how you relate to the government. The million-dollar question of the day is, what is your relationship to God based on? Now, we have relationships with people around us, with organizations around us horizontally, but with relation to God, there is one thing that governs that relationship. What is the one thing that defines how you relate to it? Now, is he your friend? Is it reciprocal kindness? You're kind to God, God is kind to you, you're kind to him. Is that how you relate to God?
No.
Is that the thing? No, that's not the thing that relates you to God. It's not that. Maybe it's sort of like a bank. Maybe you give some money to God, and then God gives some money back to you because he's grateful that you gave some money to him and he rewards you with money or something like that. There was a church that believed that once, you know? What church believed that one time? Like 500 years ago. What was it?
Grace?
What? No, what church believed that? Get a little ahead of me. Who knows which church believed in that? The Roman Catholic Church. There was a day when the Roman Catholic Church says, hey, give us enough money, we'll give you a little paper that says you're okay with God, and everything will be good. So you give God some money, God gives you some forgiveness, and money, they thought, was what the relationship between us and God was based on. But was it? No, they were wrong. That wasn't it. Well, maybe God is like the government. Maybe the one thing between us and God is the law. If we're really good, God will give us blessings. If we're really bad, God will curse us. And so it's based upon the law, and that's our relationship with God. Is our relationship with God based on the law?
No.
No. What is the one thing that defines what your relationship with God looks like? What do you think it is? How would you encapsulate that? You're getting there. You're right. That does encapsulate our relationship, but I'm looking for a word. And I'm thinking, Michael knows it. Oh, that's not the word I'm looking for, but you know what? In a way, you're right. I want to think of this from a different perspective tonight. I'm looking for a different word.
Love?
Yes, but that's not the word I'm looking for either. You guys are all right from different angles, but this is a new angle I want us to appreciate tonight. It's the C word. Wait. I think maybe Jefferson's got it. You know it? The C word? Covenant! He's got it, ladies and gentlemen. Covenants! Covenants are the one thing that encapsulate what you all were talking about, that govern our relationship with God. What we encapsulate that in is covenants. You have a relationship with people around you. You have a relationship with God. The one thing that defines whether you're a friend, whether you're a citizen in a government, whether you are a bank member, what kind of relationship you have with God is all determined by covenants. Now, if you've been in the Reformed Church for a while, or in this denomination, what denomination is our church? Who knows what denomination this church is? What denomination is this church? This is a Presbyterian church. This is a Reformed church. If you've been in any Presbyterian church or Reformed church for very long, you have probably heard people talk about covenant theology. We here are covenant theologians, and then they go on and talk about the gospel and all kinds of great things, but very seldom do I find that anyone actually defines what covenant theology is. We talk about covenant theology, you've probably heard the phrase covenant theology, but what is covenant theology, and why is it so important to an accurate understanding of our relationship with God? That's what I want you to know tonight. What I want us to learn tonight is what covenant theology is. And you have to know three things in order to get that. We have to ask three questions. To learn what covenant theology is and why it matters to us, why we should even care, we have to ask three questions. The first question is, first of all, what is a covenant? A lot of you are maybe wondering, what's a covenant? I don't even know what we're talking about. I'm so lost, I don't even know what I'm thinking. We're going to answer that. What is a covenant? The second question we have to ask is, once we learn what a covenant is, we have to ask what kind of covenants we have with God. What does our relationship look like with God? What are those covenants? And then finally, after we ask all those questions, we ask one more question, which kind of sums everything else up. What is the last question we ask?
So what?
What is it?
So what?
So what?
Oh.
Why do we care? The question we ask at the end is so what? What is a covenant? Which ones did we get? And so what? So first of all, what is a covenant? I need 2 volunteers. We got right in the front. I'm going to take Caleb and Jerinian. Okay?
Is it
Trinian.
what?
Jerinian and Caleb. Yeah, so Caleb, you're right here. Yep, right here. And Jerinian, you're right here. Now, a covenant. Who can tell me, very basically, what a covenant is? Just in like one word. It is a...
Promise.
Eddie.
Promise.
It is a promise. Okay, the simplest, easy way to understand a covenant is to say a covenant is a promise. But there's some more you have to understand. It's not just a promise, okay? There's more that goes into it. There are 3 elements to this kind of promise. The first element is the parties. The second is the terms. And finally, we have the consequences. So let's say Jerinian and Caleb here are going to make a covenant with each other. And it can be about anything in the world. Let's say Jerinian here has got the candy.
Oh yeah.
Here, you got these 2 candies right here. And Caleb's got none. And Caleb wants some candy, okay? So they are going to enter into a covenant regarding the candy, which is kind of silly, but it's going to be simple enough we can understand, hopefully. So Caleb comes up to Jerinian, and he says, I want to make a covenant. Say it.
I want to make a covenant.
He wants to make a covenant about candy. And Caleb says, I want to have some of your candy. I would like to have some of your candy. And Jerinian says, I'm a nice guy. I'll make a deal with you, Caleb.
Wait, really?
And I'm going to give you some of my candy. But we're going to make a covenant about the candy. So in this covenant, the first element has already taken place. The parties. Who are the parties involved in this covenant? Gwen, who are they?
Trinian and Caleb.
Jerinian and Caleb. The people involved, the parties involved are Jerinian and Caleb. But now they're going to be terms of the covenant. So Jerinian says, I will give you the candy, Caleb, if you give me the same amount tomorrow. And Caleb says, oh, okay, that's great. I'll do that. So Caleb takes the candy. And then Jerinian says, but wait, there's more. I will give you the candy if you give it to me tomorrow. But if you do not give it back, something else. So we see in the second part, what is the second part, the terms? What are the terms of this covenant? Xander, what are the terms of this covenant?
Caleb wants candy, and so Jerinian gives it to him, but Caleb has to bring it back.
But Caleb has to bring it back. That's the term of the covenant. He has to bring it back. But Jerinian says, if you do not bring the candy back, there will be a consequence. And that is the third element of a covenant, the consequence of the covenant. And he says, if you do not bring me the candy tomorrow, then you will have broken the covenant's terms. And the day after that, the consequence will be that you must give me $5. So, Caleb goes over here, and he has some candy. He likes it. He eats some of the candy, but then after that, he goes out and he buys some more candy. He comes back to Jerinian the next day. He gives him his candy back, and then the covenant's fulfilled. They did it. That's what was supposed to happen. He gave the candy back. Yay! But what if Caleb took the candy, and he gave him the candy, and then Caleb walks away, and he eats the candy. And then he doesn't have any money to buy more candy. He was stupid. He ate the candy. He didn't have any to buy more. Now he can't fulfill the covenant. So when he comes to Jerinian the next day, and he says, Jerinian, how you doing, buddy? I don't have the candy. Then what's going to happen? No, that is not correct. Xander is wrong. What happens next if there were specific terms and the term did not say he gets beaten up? It says what happens to him if he does not bring the candy back. Jeremiah, what happens? Payment of $5. That is the consequence because he broke the covenant. So you guys see, there are 3 elements. First, there are the parties. It was Jerinian and Caleb. Second, there are the terms. I'll give you candy, give it back to me tomorrow. Third, there's the consequence. If you break the covenant, Caleb, the consequence is you must pay me $5. So, that's what a covenant looks like. Thank you, gentlemen. Have a seat. So now we all understand a covenant, do we not? I hope you all understand. I hope that was easy enough to understand. That's what a covenant is. It's a promise. It's an agreement between 2 or more people about a thing with terms and conditions and a consequence if it is broken. So, that said, we have to ask ourselves a question. What did I say earlier? That our relationship with God is based upon covenants. That means God has made some deals with us. Am I right? Yes. But we have to ask ourselves, what covenants did he make? Is it a candy covenant? Did God make a candy covenant with us and that our entire relationship with God is based on a candy covenant? No, it's something else. And if we don't know what that covenant is, if we don't know what those covenants are that God has made with us, how do we know how to interact with God? How do we know? How do we know? But if you don't read the Bible and you don't know what covenants he's made, how do you know?
You don't.
You don't know how to relate to God. You have no idea. So tonight, I want to tell you what covenants God made with us, so that you will know what your relationship with God is. Now, the first covenant. Does anyone know what the first covenant is called that God made with us? Some of you guys may know that. Bryce, or I haven't got Joey yet. Joey, what's it called? Of works. That's the first covenant. Let's find out what the first covenant is God made with us. Now, God is gracious. He made a covenant right off the bat with mankind so that we wouldn't be confused about how to relate to God and what our relationship with him looks like. So go to Genesis, very beginning. It's like chapter 2, very beginning of the Bible. God gives us a clear outline of what our relationship is going to look like with him. So in the beginning, hopefully you guys already know the story. God made heaven, he made earth, everything was good. He made the very first man, who was Adam. Very good, you do know this story. So he made the first man, Adam. And he made a covenant with him right off the bat. This is the covenant found in chapter 2, verse 15. The Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and keep it. And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, You may surely eat of every tree in the garden, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat. For in the day you eat of it, you shall surely die. This is kind of harsh covenant right off the bat, isn't it?
Yep.
Okay, now you guys, having understood now what a covenant looks like, answer for me these 3 questions. What are the 3 elements? Who, now this is actually a little bit of a tricky question. It's hard to tell from just looking at that verse. But who are the parties involved in this covenant? Oh, who haven't I got yet? Who haven't I got? Rinian? I brought you up for the example. Go. Or no, yes. Carson. Carson, who are the parties involved? Man and God. Got it. Now, tricky. You said it right, but specify for us. Who is man? Adam?
Eve.
And Eve? Is it?
Whole mankind. All of us.
And all of us. This covenant is being made here between God, Adam, and everyone after Adam. And whatever Adam does in this covenant counts for everyone else. Got that? Those are the parties. Now, second of all, what are the terms? What terms does God make for this covenant? What is he outlining should happen? Yes?
That he said that you can't eat from the one specific tree, but you can eat all of the...
Okay, there you go. Perfect. He says, eat from any tree you want, but don't eat from this tree. Simple terms. Very easy to understand, right? But there's one more element of a covenant, guys. What's the last element? The consequence. What is the consequence if this covenant is not brought through to completion? Yes?
You'll die.
He'll die. More than that, Adam will die. Eve will die. Who else? Who else of this the party is involved?
Everyone.
Everyone, because this covenant's not just with Adam, it's with everyone. So, I think we all know what happens next, right?
Yeah.
Does Adam keep the covenant and everything's fine and just goes on? No. And does he get the blessing of God? Because God says, if you're good, I'm going to bless you and you get to go to heaven and you get to be happy forever. Does he do that? No. He breaks the covenant, which brings the consequence into force. What is the consequence? Death. What kind of death? Just death and you're obliterated and it's all done.
Death is your body turns into dust.
War. What?
Torture, sin.
How? What?
You're
Hell,
so
you
good.
hell.
Where do you go? You go to hell. There is a coming into force here, guys. This is a really bad death. And wait a minute, who was this covenant made with again? God and all, everyone. So, now you know. Our relationship to God is based upon this covenant in which we have broken our relationship with God and we are now cursed and we're all going to hell. Because the covenant was broken. Thank you for coming, everyone. I'm glad you now understand what the covenants are and how we relate to God. Am I right?
No. Liar.
Did I not just say that our relationship with God is based on a covenant?
Yes.
Did I say that?
Yes.
Not a covenant.
What?
Not a covenant.
What did I say?
You said it's based on covenants?
Plural. More than one covenant. There are two. There are two covenants. What is the second covenant called? And grace is the second one. The first one was works. God is gracious and he says, I'm not going to leave it there. He makes one more covenant with us. Grace. That one's also found in Genesis. God didn't take too long to make that for us. He knew we were in trouble. So turn to Genesis chapter 15, I believe. Chapter 15. Who is Abram? Tell me who Abram is. Krista, who's Abram?
Abraham?
Okay, just like, who is he? What's he like? Does God like him? Does God not like him? Is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? Was he a long time ago? Was he recent? Just fill me in a little bit.
He was a long time ago.
Okay, did God like him?
Yeah.
Where did he live? In the jungle? Yeah. In the desert. Okay, so there's a guy. His name's Abram. He lives in the desert a long time ago, thousands of years ago, but after Adam. And God kind of takes a shine into this guy. It's like, oh, I like this Abram guy. This Abram guy's cool. I'm going to go make a covenant with this Abram guy. Okay, so then God goes down to Abram, and Abram wants something. There's something Abram wants very much, and God has not given it to him yet. What is it? Back. What have I not got yet?
A son.
He's not got a son. He wants to have a son so that his son can have a son, and his son can have a son, and his son can have a son, so this family can go on and on. That's something Abram wants. Why not? And God comes to Abram, and this happens. Chapter 15 of Genesis. After these things, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision. Fear not, Abram. I am your shield. Your reward shall be very great. Right off the bat, what are we seeing here? If someone tells you they're going to be your, what was it? Shield, they're doing you a favor, right? They're protecting you. I'm going to protect you, Stephen. I won't let anything happen to you, okay? Now you can go do fun stuff. I'll watch your back and make sure I get rid of all the bad guys coming to get you. I'm doing him a favor, right? What does this guy owe me?
Money.
He owes me money. He's got to pay me for this because I'm helping him out, right? What does God say that Abram's got to do because God has been a good shield to him? What does Abram get, Stephen? He gets what? A presence? Presence?
Yeah.
He does. He gets a great reward. So right off the bat, we are seeing that Abram here, his relationship with God, starts by God saying, I am your shield, and you are going to get a reward because I was your shield. This is working out pretty well for Abram so far, right?
Yeah.
But you know what Abram's thinking? He's thinking, I still don't have a son, so let's see what happens next. Because this statement establishes the vein through which the rest of the story takes place. Right after that, Abram responded. He says, But Abram said, O Lord God, what will you give me? For I continue childless, and the heir of my house is Eliezer of Damascus. Not even his son, just some other guy. And Abram said, Behold, you have given me no offspring, and a member of my household will be my heir. Just some other guy who lives in his house. And behold, the word of the Lord came to him. This is what God said. This man shall not be your heir. And he brought him outside and said, Look toward the heaven, number the stars, if you can number them. Then he said to him, So shall your offspring be. And he believed the Lord, and he counted it to him as righteousness. And he said to him, I am the Lord, who brought you out from Ur and the Chaldeans, to give you this land to possess. But he said, O Lord, how am I to know that I shall possess it? What is God promising Abram? A child, yes. Many children, yes, but more. What else is he promising Abram? What's he promising Abram? Right here in the front. What? offspring, not just offspring and children. There's something else he just told me to get. Can you see what else it is? The promised land. He's giving him land. The land that will become the New Jerusalem. He's giving him a blessing. Now wait a minute. If God is giving him something good, and we know this is not just a piece of dirt, is it? By this gesture, by God giving Abram this land, he's not just giving him land, is he? What else is he giving him?
Kids.
He's giving him kids, he's giving him even more. He's giving him reconciliation to himself. He's fixing Abram's relationship with himself, and he's saying, you're not going to go to hell after all. I'm going to bless you, and you're going to go to heaven. Wait a minute, how can that be? Is Abram a descendant of Adam? Yes, he is. What does that mean has to happen to Abram? He has to go to hell. Abram has to die. So what do you think Abram says next? Next thing Abram says is, in verse 8. Abram goes, but he said, "O Lord God, how am I to know that I shall possess it?" Because first of all, Abram doesn't have any children, so that's going to be hard to get. It's going to be hard to get the children. And how's he going to get the land? He doesn't have enough people to take over the land. And what else might Abram be thinking in his head at this time? Why cannot God give Abram a blessing? Why can God not give Abram this blessing? Because Abram has to die. He's a covenant breaker. Abram is a covenant breaker, and maybe Abram's thinking in this place now, like, wait a minute, God, you can't bless me and send me to heaven. I'm a covenant breaker. How can you do that for me? And this is what God says in response. Check it, verse 9. He said to him, bring me a heifer 3 years old, a female goat 3 years old, a ram 3 years old, a turtle dove, a young pigeon, and a partridge in a pear tree. And he brought what? And he brought him all these, cut them in half, and laid each half over and against the other, but he did not cut the birds in half. And when the birds of prey came down on the carcasses, Abram drove them away. So you guys see what's happening here? It's really gory, actually. Someone tell me what Abram just did. I can't give you candy for this one. It's too gross. I don't know. Okay, Bryson, what just happened?
Slaughter all the animals and cut them out from the inside.
God says, go get some animals. So Abram gets some animals, and he cuts them in half. And he puts them on the ground, and then when the vultures try to eat the dead bodies that have been cut in half, he shoos the vultures away. Okay, so we got this in the desert. Bodies of animals on the ground. Abram's sitting there, chasing away birds. Okay? Now we look at, lost my place. This is verse 15. How did I move so far? Verse 12.
Yes, 15:12.
As the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell on Abram, and behold, dreadful and great darkness fell upon him. Then the Lord said to Abram, know for certain that your offspring will be sojourners in a land not theirs, and will be servants there, and they will be afflicted 400 years. But I will bring judgment on the nation that they serve, and afterwards they shall come out with great possessions. As for yourself, you shall go to your fathers in peace. You shall be buried in a good old age, and they shall come back here in the 4th generation, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet complete. Well, that sounds pretty good. He's explaining he's going to do all these things, and he's going to get this land eventually. And the next part, this next verse, this is the most important thing that you will hear in the lesson all night. Please hear this part. Hear this part. This is verse 17. When the sun had gone down and it was dark, behold, a smoking fire pot and a flaming torch passed between these pieces. Did you get that? Okay, what happened? Someone tell me what just happened. That was so important. Who got that? What happened?
A fire pot
Yes.
went and a torch went
Yeah.
between the pieces of animals.
So we have dead animals on the ground. Halves of animals. There are 2 rows of animals like this. 2 rows of dead pieces of animals. And a smoking fire pot comes. And a torch. And what do those represent? It's not just a floating piece of wood on fire, is it? What is it?
It's God.
It is God. a flaming fire pot and torch that represents God comes, and this flaming fire pot and torch, they pass between the pieces of the animals. So here are the pieces in 2 rows, and they pass between the pieces of the animals. I'm going to say that again. Did you all get that?
Yeah.
There are dead animal pieces in 2 rows. A fire pot, which is God, comes and passes between those 2 pieces of animals. Did you get that? Should I say it again?
No.
You got it, okay, you got it. Remember that. The very end says this. On that day, the Lord made a buzzword. Made a covenant with Abram, saying to your offspring, I give this land from the river of Egypt to the great river, the river Euphrates, the land of the Kenites, the Kenizzites, the Kenites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Rephaim, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Girgashites, and the Jebusites. So, God made a covenant with Abram. Let's see how well you guys got all the different components. You guys remember we talked about the components of a covenant? Okay, tell me about the components of this covenant. How well were you able to track with this? I see one in the back, in the red shirt. Who are the parties of this covenant? Which party? Who?
The parties of the covenant were Abram and God.
Yes, and you are correct, but there's even more. In the same way that the first covenant was between God and Adam, this is between God, Abram, and
Everyone.
almost.
All mankind.
Almost. It's
And Adam.
us.
Us?
Us. Between God, Abram, and us. So there's a lot of people involved in this covenant. You guys got that? Between God, Abram, and us. All of us. Okay? So, those are the parties. We got God over here, got Abram here, a covenant. Those are the parties. God, Abram, and all of us who came after Abram. Okay? Got that? So we got the parties. Now tell me the second part. What are the terms of this covenant? Who's got the terms? Ready? What are the terms of this covenant?
God promises to give Abram offspring.
He says you get offspring and land and a blessing, and you'll be restored to me if you do what? It's very similar to the last covenant. If you obey me, you get a great reward. Sounds just like the old covenant, am I right? The old covenant was, obey me and you will live and have paradise. Disobey me, you'll go to hell. The new covenant says, if you obey me, you will go to heaven, you will have paradise, you will get land and children. If you disobey me, God says there will be consequences, right? Right?
No.
Yes, it does. But it's tricky. It's a hard one to answer because was anyone able to catch what the consequences were in this covenant? The last part of the covenant, the consequence. Was anyone able to catch? It's kind of hard to catch because the part of the covenant that outlines the consequences is not culturally understood today. When is the last time you saw someone take animals, cut them in half, lay them in 2 rows, and then walk between the pieces of the animals and probably get their feet all bloody? When's the last time you saw that?
Never.
Yesterday? Good for you. I've never seen it in my life. No more candy the rest of the night. Not for you. So, I have never seen this. Because we don't do this anymore. This isn't how we make covenants today. We don't cut up animals in pieces and walk between them and do whatever.
We don't.
But back then, it was common. Did any of you notice? Did God tell Abram to cut the animals in half?
Oh.
No. God said, go get some animals. And then Abram, all by himself, goes, I know what to do. He gets the animals, he cuts them in half, and he puts them on the sand. And and he did it right. And God didn't even tell him what to do. Why did Abram know what to do? Because that was the way they did it back then. Back then, was it common for kings to fight against each other?
Yeah.
All the time. Why did they fight each other? Why were they so bloodthirsty? Someone tell me, who's got it? Caleb, why'd they fight against each other?
Want to take over each other's kingdom?
Kind of. There's something else they wanted, not just the kingdom.
They wanted more power, and they wanted more.
Power.
They wanted land.
They wanted more land.
Sometimes land, but why do they care about the land?
There's people on it?
What?
Because there's a bunch of people on it?
There are, and what can the people give the king? What can the people give the king that he likes?
Money?
Money! Money! The king loves money. Now, when a king goes and conquers a kingdom, does he kill everyone?
No.
No.
If he kills everyone, that doesn't do him any good, does it? He kills only as many as he needs to kill so that there can be a bunch of people left to pay him money. Taxes. Taxes. He loves taxes. Am I right, Benjamin?
Yeah.
He loves taxes. So he leaves a few, but he wants to get taxes. So on the one hand, we have here a big king who just won, and he's all excited. I just won. Everybody's going to pay me money. And then there's a little king over here who's just been defeated. And he's like, "Don't hurt me." So the big king's like, "I need you to pay me 100 pounds of gold every single year." And the little guy goes, "Okay, I'll do that, I'll do that." And he goes, "I don't believe you. Make a covenant with me. Covenant with me." He goes, okay. So he goes, "Go get some animals." He gets some animals. The king would then cut the animals in half and make 2 rows. And the big king would say, "Pay me 100 pieces of gold every year." And the little guy goes, okay, I'll do that. And I promise that if I don't pay all of the gold to you every year, then may I have broken this covenant, and may I be killed and cut in pieces like these animals I'm walking between. So that was how they outlined the consequence. The little king would walk between the pieces of the animals and say, "If I disobey, if I break this covenant, may I become like these dead animals." That's harsh, and what is remarkable about that?
Is that because they would do that?
Think about the covenant we just talked about. Who walked between the pieces of the animals?
Jesus.
Think about this covenant. Who are the parties of the covenant we were just talking about? We got the big king right here, Jesus. We got God. And we got Abram over here. Now, who should be the big king who's victorious, and who should be the little guy? Who's the big king? God. Who's the little king who's just, he's going to have to pay tax? Abram. So who walks between the pieces of the animals?
God.
Wait. Isn't that reversed? Isn't it reversed? The little king's the one who has to pay. Why is the big guy walking between the pieces? What does that mean? If God walks between the pieces, this is what it means. God says, "I make a covenant with you, Abram, and everyone who comes after you. If you obey me and you do what is right, you will go to heaven and you will be blessed and have land and offspring. If you don't obey me, Abram, then may I be cut in pieces like these animals and destroyed because you broke the covenant." Wait, does that make sense? If you disobey, then I get killed? How well does that work for Abram? That was really well. That's pretty cool. Abram's like, "Oh, I like this deal. It's kind of dramatic, but I mean, that fixes it, doesn't it?" Because, guys, as God's walking between the pieces of the animals, God's making a serious promise. But that's the covenant. And it was made with Adam and who else? Not just Adam, but Abram. And not just Abram, but who else? All of us. All of us. So if that covenant was made with all of us, we got that covenant, which is pretty sweet. Remember when I said, okay, so we're all covenant breakers up against, because Adam broke the first covenant, we're all going to hell. In this new one, God says, if you broke the covenant, I will be killed and cursed instead. So now we have better news, right? That's good news. Now we're bailed out, we're saved. So now we've answered the first 2 questions. The first question was what a covenant is. What's a covenant? We know what a covenant is, right? We got that. We hit that enough. Parties, terms, and consequences, right? Second thing we looked at was what covenants did we get? We got a covenant of, what was the first one called? Works. Ooh, very good. Covenant of works. And we broke that one, and that was the one that didn't get us to hell, right? Then we got the second covenant of grace, and that got us what? That got us happiness and blessings, and we're going to heaven because God made a new covenant with us. The last question, what did I say? The last question was that we were going to answer tonight. The last question is, Eddie?
So what?
So what? Good. Read. We could have been home playing video games this whole time. Why are we here talking about this? Does it matter?
Yes.
Matters. Why does it matter? Guys, think about this. As God is walking between the pieces of the animals and he looks at Abram, what has Abram done? Is he a covenant breaker or keeper? Breaker. And God, when he says, if you break the covenant, may I be killed. What has Abram already done through Adam? He already broke it. God was dooming himself by walking between those animals. So what? The so what is that someday God is going to have to what? If he fulfills this covenant and God has to fulfill the covenant, he's going to die? Someday God is going to die because he switched out with Abram. So Abram and all of us wouldn't die for breaking the first covenant. What is that going to look like? Someday God is going to have to die. What's going to happen to the world when God dies? What will the universe look like when God dies? Tell me, what do you think when God finally actually does this and dies, because he promised he would, what is the universe going to look like? Bryson?
Terrible.
It's going to look terrible, you think? Like how? Like what kind of terrible?
Like
They won't have like a really strong guy.
They won't have a really strong guy to protect them. What else is the world going to look like, guys, when God dies? And God must die. What? Benjamin, what's it going to look like?
It's gonna look like 2,000 years ago.
Oh.
It's gonna be very, very sad.
Why 2,000 years ago?
Because he already did that.
It happened already? You mean God already followed through and did it? No way! He already died? Who died, guys?
Jesus. God.
Jesus died? Oh, that's so cliche. I already heard about that.
God's son.
How did Jesus die? We all know that. How did Jesus die? He died on a what? On a cross. Big deal. Everybody knows that. We talk about that all the time. It's like, Jesus died for my sin. Jesus died on the cross, whatever. Why did Jesus actually die? Because someone broke a covenant. And because God walked between the pieces of the animals. And God made a promise. And God had to keep that promise so that we would not get cut in pieces like that animal. When Jesus was on the cross, nailed, whipped, bleeding, dying, it was because he was taking Abram's place. And who else's place? All of us. So guys, what is our relationship to God based on? C word. Covenant. Covenants. The covenant of works that we broke, the covenant of grace that Jesus already died for because we broke the first one. Our relationship to God is based on these covenants. This is why in the Reformed Church, in the Presbyterian Church, we care about it being called, what was that phrase that we never always find? What was it called? Covenant theology. This is why we care about it. Because everything about us and God is based on these covenants, and that determines how we interact with God. And now, how do we interact with God? What's our interaction look like? Is it good or bad? Is he going to curse us or bless us? Bless us. If we are his children, if that covenant is made with you, if you are one of Abram's sons and that covenant was made with you, Jesus died for your sins, you don't have to. Is that a good covenant? Yes. Let's close with Hebrews. Hebrews chapter 6. Verse 13. Hebrews chapter 6, toward the end of the Bible. Verse 13. 6:13. Hebrews chapter 6, verse 13. Got it all right?
Yes.
This is the New Testament, thousands of years after the Abraham covenant. 6:13. For when God made a promise to Abraham, which we just read about, right? Since he had no one greater by whom to swear, he swore by himself, saying, surely I will bless you and multiply you. And thus Abraham, having patiently waited, obtained the promise. In who? In Jesus, yes. For people swear by something greater than themselves, and in all their disputes, an oath is final for confirmation. So when God desired to show more convincingly to the heirs of the promise the unchangeable oath, the unchangeable things, two unchangeable things, in which it is impossible for God to lie, we who have fled for refuge might have strong encouragement to hold fast to the hope set before us. We have this as a sure and steadfast anchor for the soul, a hope that enters into the innermost place behind the curtain, where Jesus has gone as a forerunner on our behalf, having become a high priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. Is your relationship to God based on reciprocal kindness?
No.
You're kind to him, he's kind to you, you're kind to him, he's kind to you? No, it's not it. Is it based on money?
No.
You give God money and then he likes you and he gives you blessings and money? No. Is it based on the law? You obey the law, you're blessed. You disobey the law, you're cursed.
No.
No. What's it based on? These covenants. that never change.
Close it, Bernie.
Sure. We want to thank you for defining